What's going on? Welcome in. Welcome in. What's going on, guys? What's going on? What's going on, V? Welcome in. What a day. I mean, today really started out like it was just going to be a drag. I mean, we started out like we were pretty much going to just get an
What's going on?
onslaught
Welcome in.
in
Welcome in.
continuation with Friday. What's going on, Lobo? So, pretty much watching today's price action this morning, it kind of felt like it was going to roll over from what we got on Friday, dropping about 10 plus points. I think it was about near 13, 14 points on SPY from Friday, and I was expecting to pretty much
What's going
coincide
on,
with
guys? What's going
what
on?
Avery was
What's
looking
going on,
for,
V?
was
Welcome in.
testing the gap fill that we
What a
have
day.
on SPY.
I
I
mean,
believe
today really
roughly
started
around
out like it was just gonna be a
403 ish
drag.
is
I
where
mean, we
SPY
started
actually
out
has
like we
to
were
test
pretty
that
much
gap fill.
going to just
But
get
the
an
market just
onslaught
pretty
in
much
continuation with
called it
Friday.
short, and
What's
they
going
just
on, Lobo?
ripped us. That was
So
just
pretty much
basically a
watching today's
squeeze,
price action this morning,
falling us
it kind of
short.
felt like it
Everyone
was gonna
tried to
roll over
press
from what we
into
got
the
on
short,
Friday,
basically
dropping
looking
about
for that
10
gap
plus
fill
points.
test
I
at
think
the
it was
very
about
least, if
near
not to complete
13,
the gap.
14 points on SPY
And everyone
from
pretty much
Friday,
just
and I
got
was
what you
expecting
would
to
want to
pretty
say is
much
annihilated,
coincide
right?
with
And
what
that's what
Avery was
happens
looking
when
for
you're in bear
was
markets and you're
testing
trying
the
to press
gap
into
fill
these
that we
lows.
have on
If
SPY. I
you would have
believe
pressed into the
roughly
lows
around
maybe on Friday, in
403-ish
which it was just a
is
strong
where
trend
SPY
day,
actually has
yeah.
to
But
test the
this was
gap
one of
fill.
those days where
But
you
the
were
market
already
just
getting into
pretty
such
much
oversold
called it short,
territory following the
and
price
they just
action
ripped us.
that we
That
already
was
got
just
on Friday,
basically a
that you
squeeze,
continue to press into those lows.
falling us
And what does
short.
market
Everyone
makers do?
tried to
They
press
squeeze you.
into the
That's
short,
basically
basically
what they're known
looking
for
for
doing.
that
Is
gap fill test
once
at
you
the
get
very
such a
least, if
strong
not to
move in one
complete the gap.
direction, they're going to
And
tend to squeeze
everyone
you.
pretty much
And
just
that's
got
basically what you got
what you
today.
want to say is
Not
annihilated,
a
right?
lot of nice
And
little
that's what
bottom
happens
reversals.
when
If
you're
you
in
saw
bear
the
markets and
ideas
you're trying to
channel, I
press into these
posted quite a
lows.
bit of few charts that I was
If you would have pressed
watching.
into the lows maybe
That
on
was a
Friday, in
beautiful
which it was
descending
just a
channel
strong trend day,
intraday on
yeah.
Facebook.
But this was
If
one
you
of those
caught
days
that, that
where
was about a
you
near
were already
$4
getting
move
into
once it ended
such
up breaking out.
oversold territory
Someone tagged
following
me
the
in
price
chat. They
action
ended up
that we already got on
pretty much
Friday,
making bank off of that.
that you continue to press into those lows,
And I'll pretty
and what
much
does
get into
market
some of
makers
those
do?
charts off
They
of the
squeeze
cues
you.
here that pretty much
That's
caught my
basically
attention.
what they're known for
But I
doing.
just wanted to point out the one
Once
that
you
I was
get
pretty
such a
much swinging
strong
here
move in one
overnight, and
direction,
that
they're
was
going
pretty
to
much
tend to squeeze you.
Salesforce.
And that's
And the
basically
reason why
what you got
I swung
today.
Salesforce was this.
Not a lot of
You
nice
hear an
little
echo?
bottom reversals.
Should be alright.
That was a beautiful descending channel intraday on
Still an
Facebook.
echo?
If you caught that, that was about for that. You continue to press into those lows, and I'll pretty much get into
Song
some of
is
those
gonna
charts
be
off of
okay
the cues
once
here
you
that
hear
pretty
me
much
good.
caught my attention. But I just wanted to point out the one that I was
Good?
pretty much swinging here
No?
overnight, and that was pretty much
V.
Salesforce. And the reason why I swung Salesforce was this. Intraday on
Still an
Facebook.
echo?
If you caught that, that was about still echoing. All right, hang tight. And I'll pretty much get into
Song
some of
is
those
gonna
charts
be
off of
okay
the cues
once
here
you
that
hear me
pretty much
good.
caught my attention. But I just wanted to point out the one that I was
Good?
pretty much swinging here
No?
overnight, and that was pretty much
V.
Salesforce. And the reason why I swung Salesforce was this.
Still an echo?
Should be good now. Anything? All right, appreciate that, Randy. Appreciate that. All right, don't know
Still
what was going
echoing.
on with that, but I'm gonna guess I might have
All
to
right,
throw
hang
away
tight.
that headset. All right, so pretty much wanted to pretty much point out Salesforce. That was the one that I wanted to highlight. I was looking at that since this morning. I had a beautiful little wedge going on earlier on in the day before we had that nice little drop off into the late afternoon. So that was when I was watching. You had this nice little, what I wanted to say is it looked like a bear pennant, pretty much. If you see this little wedge that was going on. This is what I wanted to see if that bear pennant was going to play out intraday. Should be good now. It ended up playing out. Anything? But once we were able
All
to
right,
find
appreciate that,
bottom
Randy.
with the
Appreciate
overall
that.
market,
All
that's
right,
when
don't
I
know what was
actually
going on with
zoomed
that,
out.
but I'm gonna guess I
30
might have
minute
to
looks
throw
beautiful
away
for
that
a nice
headset.
reversal.
All right,
As you
so
saw, you
pretty
had that
much wanted to
sharp
pretty
little
much point
uptrend.
out Salesforce.
I'm going
That
to
was
be
the
looking
one
for
that I
this
wanted to
inverse head and
highlight. I
shoulders
was looking at
tomorrow.
that since this morning.
So this is
I
probably going to
had a
be my
beautiful
priority
little
looking
wedge
into
going
this
on
one.
earlier on in the day
Alongside the names
before
of,
we had that nice little
we
drop off
always look
into
at
the
the
late
Tesla, the
afternoon. So
Microsoft, and
that
Facebook.
was when I was
This
watching.
is
You
one
had
I'm
this
going to
nice
be
little,
pretty
what I
much paying
wanted to say
attention
is
to.
it looked like a
I
bear
got a
pennant,
small
pretty
position
much. If you see
overnight.
this
I'll look
little
to see if I add to it
wedge
tomorrow.
that was going on.
Still
This is what I
echoing.
wanted to see if that bear
That
pennant
is
was going to
odd.
play out intraday.
Should be good now.
It ended up playing out.
Anything?
But once we were able
All
to
right,
find
appreciate 30 minute looks beautiful for a nice reversal. As you saw, you
Haven't
had
had
that
problems with
sharp
my
little
speaker
uptrend
at
on
all
sales.
for
I'm going to be
quite a
looking
few
for
days.
this one to
Quite
kind of
odd that
show
it's
up
actually
tomorrow.
today that's having a problem.
So this is probably going to be my priority looking into
You
this
can let me
one.
know if it's good.
Alongside the names
You should be fine right
we
now though.
always look at the Tesla, the Microsoft, and Facebook. This is one I'm going to
Echoing
pretty much
again.
paying attention to. I got to that was going on.
Still
This is what I
echoing.
wanted to see if that bear
That
pattern
is
was going
odd.
to play out intraday.
Still.
It ended up playing out, but once we were able to find 30 minute looks beautiful for a nice reversal.
Testing,
As you
testing.
saw, you
Haven't
had
had
that
problems
sharp
with my
little
speaker
uptrend
at
on
all.
sales.
Old mic.
I'm going
Nope.
to be looking
There's
for
a
this
lag
one to
version.
kind of
Odd
show
that
up
is actually
tomorrow.
today
That is
that's having
quite
a problem.
odd.
So this is probably going to be my priority looking into
You
this
can let me
one.
know if it's good.
Tesla, the Microsoft, and Facebook.
Definitely
This
the
is one
first
I'm
time
going
this
to be
happened in a
looking
while.
paying attention to.
Haven't had that
I got
happen
to
in a while.
that was going on.
Still
This is what I
echoing.
wanted to see if
It's a
that bear pattern was
30-second
going to play out
replay in the
intraday.
background.
Still, it ended up playing
That is
out,
odd.
but once we were able to find
All right. Anything? That is quite odd right now. Actually, two different headsets too. That's quite weird. Good for now. Better. All right. So I guess that did the trick. It probably is. I haven't had that issue in quite a while with the mic, but I guess it's gonna act up at some point in time. You have to expect that. But I guess just let me know if anything acts up again. But back to pretty much Salesforce, so I can wrap up. I know that Sig and Dapper is going to be the end of their class, but pretty much watching Salesforce here. PT on this one. Once we end up breaking this neckline here, roughly right around this 182 low. That spot that I'm watching is 182.51 is the spot. I'm watching the break over here on Salesforce. We get that break at 182.51. Then we're pretty much looking at a little bit of a resistance that you have sitting at 186.29. Above that, that's going to be a slingshot right up towards 190.69 is what I'm looking at for Salesforce. So this is one, it's already been beaten up. If you pretty much see the daily off of this, it's already been beaten up already as it is. So this is going to be a beautiful one. They also do have earnings coming up next week. So maybe we start to see this run up and we start to make a strong push going into next week. So best case, if you really wanted to get maybe a longer dated position, is that you go out towards next week calls. I know that they're going to be more expensive, obviously, because of earnings. Maybe you can go maybe 3 4 weeks out and maybe get a call debit spread, and you can capitalize on maybe a move towards 200. That might be a more better ideal situation if you want to play it safe in this market environment. Maybe get a call debit spread, go out towards maybe high 190s to 200 strikes, and then you create a nice little call debit spread off of that, and you can play the potential run up going into next week for the earnings. So that's one I really like, being that it's the fact that it's so oversold already. The other one, pretty much real quick before I get into that, was just watching Spy. We had a nice little doji today on Spy. That was just a beautiful little bottoming action. I know that Avery is watching for a little bit of a pullback here going into tomorrow before we pretty much get a nice little rip. I'm watching us towards about 418 here. 419 is the spot. But if we do get a nice little pullback, I'm pretty much looking to anchor off of our February 24th low that we hit of 410.64. That's what I'm going to look to see as far back on we get this pullback tomorrow morning. So if we end up retracing off of this most of this move here today, 410.64 would be the low that I would expect to pivot off of to create a higher low as we go into FOMC. Of course, if you guys didn't hear us on live again, this today was that tomorrow's going to be a little bit of a low volume day tomorrow as well. That's something that you want to be aware of. So hopefully we're not necessarily in a box. That's what I would want to say. Like they pretty much had us in a little bit of a box here this morning. You do not want to be caught in a box and a low volume environment here tomorrow. So that's something that you also want to be aware of. It may be something, depending upon the price action, how wild of a swing it is, then you may end up wanting to stay sidelined, in which you'll likely hear me or Avery pretty much say, low volume day, there's nothing that's pretty much happening, and they probably just put us in some sideways action. So that's the alternative right now. But I would expect to pivot off of that February 24th low, 410.64, and then we start to build a higher low off of that going in through the
towards the basically the rest of the week here. All right. And then upside 420 will be my first PT, and then above that 420, 423 half to 424 will be my next spot that I'm watching. All right. But other than that, that's pretty much what I'm watching for Spy. You probably heard me say about Tesla here. I pretty much got shook out of Tesla this morning. It literally just dropped on me. I think I got in trying to catch the bottom. It went down about $16 before it faced it basically twice. So we literally saw Tesla go red to green basically twice in today's price action. What a wild price action today for Tesla. But we'll see if it's able to hold. As long as it holds its 857 spot, that's the level I'm watching to be a bear. If it breaks under that 857 spot, then we go for that wick low at that 821.70. Otherwise, if we're able to hold these highs that we're pretty much putting in, that 886 level was a pretty big level. If we hold 886, I'm watching this up towards 944 is the level that I'm watching for resistance going into tomorrow. So that should be another beautiful one. It start to show relative strength at some point earlier on, and then it just finished the day so strong. So I want to see it hold 886. If it can't hold 886, then I'll start to be a bear at under this level at 857. Otherwise, then we can start trading in a range tomorrow, and we just wait until Powell to really get a directional move off of this. All right. Other than that, I think that's pretty much the main. So I was watching Facebook, like I mentioned. I dropped that one in ideas as well. That was just a pretty much a textbook intraday descending channel. And again, if you caught that from the bottom here, when it broke out 204, it literally topped out near 212. That was just a rip, a beautiful rip. So I love to catch these little descending channels intraday because they end up playing out so beautifully, and that was one that I would pretty much continue to pretty much watch if we get any kind of retracement here tomorrow morning. All right. But anything else anyone was looking at in particular? I don't know if anyone's looking at. I'm waiting for a shop alert. I think this is one that I'm just waiting on. I'm waiting on a cloud alert to hit on shop. We'll see if we end up getting it, but I honestly I don't think it's gonna happen. I know that the bear winds on the cloud alert are a lot more stronger than the bear alerts. So that's something that I probably have to wait until we get a reversal to the back to the downside, which may end up being a while, and then we'll likely get an alert on shop. So I'm not counting on one for shop, but if you didn't hear me mention it on live, also I did put Facebook. We do have a Facebook cloud alert that was actually dropped in beta. So I'm gonna be watching to see if we get a cloud alert come tomorrow morning on Facebook, and that should be a beautiful one. The win percentage is roughly between about 82 to 83% on Facebook. So that'll be a beautiful one that I watch out for tomorrow morning. And then I know that also Avery dropped AMD in beta as well. So we'll see how the Facebook and the AMD algos go for the next week or two. And then if that all goes well, then we'll drop that in the live alerts, the live cloud alerts, and that should be able to pretty much hopefully bank as much as the rest of them are. All right. Got into the Walmart play and the video play this afternoon. I know that me and this is actually the beautiful part, especially when you hear more than one trader agreeing on price targets and upside or downside. I know that me and Avery were both bullish on Nvidia. You had earnings coming up. Nvidia was pretty much a lock towards that 200 mark. You saw the rip that he gave you into the close here. That was a pretty quick rip that you ended up getting out of this. So 195, you got a little bit more upside here. Roughly, I was watching right around this 199 half is what I was watching. As you say, $200 is what me and Avery was pretty much watching on that. And then we were also watching the pullback on Walmart. That 150 spot was a lock to pretty much watch. We basically put in a nice little bottom, and as you saw, you had a beautiful reversal, and it looks like it's potentially flagging right now into the close here. So that's going to be a beautiful one that I'll likely continue to get some upside tomorrow. You'll hit a little bit of a resistance, 153.11 on Walmart, but I have this going back towards 157 as a spot. I have Walmart going back up towards. So this is another beautiful one that we caught on this one. I know that myself, Avery, and Dougie all had about that 150 mark is where we were looking for Walmart to bottom. So that's why I say if you hear more than one trader pretty much looking at the same levels, same upside or downside, that's usually a very positive thing. So as you saw, 150 was the bottom we were all watching. What a beautiful face rip that was. And then the other one I know me and Avery was watching not just alongside Nvidia, but AMD was the other one. into earnings as well with semis in that same sector. Basically, is what I'm mentioning. AMD was pretty much a lock towards that 90 is what I was watching. I kind of got upset towards the end of the day. I missed that end of day rip. I should have got into it. But that's one that he's watching actually towards earnings in which he actually thinks it's going to come out just over $100 on that. So that's another one to pretty much watch out. Another one that's also on the radar here tomorrow is Google. The reason I say Google is because I know that we had a rapid put, we had an unusual put, and we had put uh, three Nimbus puts on Google as well. So all hitting 2250 down towards 2240 strike on Google. This is going to be something that you pay attention to. The only thing that I kind of like a head scratcher I want to see on the Google puts is that if we pretty much saw bottom on the market here potentially, I'm wondering how that's going to end up playing out. Is it going to be some kind of like news that's likely going to end up dropping Google? What's going to be the scenario to get it down towards that target that everyone's pressing into? So a little bit of a head scratcher how we get down to that level. That's where I was trying to look at. I didn't necessarily look at the technicals. I probably should have looked at the technicals. Let's see if I can see. They hit 2240s. The bottom range of what I had my zone here was 2273. So what are they looking at potentially? Is what was my concern. You have a little bit of a pretty much I would say is your major support level here is right around 2229. So if they're closing in on 2240 puts, 2250 puts, then it's likely that we're coming down to this major support level that we have right down here at this 2229 level is what I would presume is what they're watching. So the levels there for technical aspect is that 2229 would be where they're looking at as a major support, and that means that it's going to nosedive. It's just what's going to be that trigger. If the market's going to hold up from this point on, what's going to be that trigger to really send it to the downside? That's what I'm going to want to see. Maybe it be a headline, some kind of news alert. That's what I'm going to be watching here come tomorrow morning. So that's also on the watch list tomorrow as well. All right. The other scenario was also watching Apple. Apple was just a nice little rollover, and you can make a case that basically Apple led the downside here today because that was a hell of a rollover that we got. Bounced pretty beautifully. I had support sitting right around this 153 80 mark is where I was watching. We bounced pretty nicely. Level was 153.27. We found bottom. And then I expect us to pretty much retest here. Will be 159.10 is where I'm looking at for upside if we do get some continuation on this reversal back tomorrow. So that's what I'll be watching 159.10. And I don't know if I want to short it there at that 159.10. It's all going to be contingent upon likely on Wednesday. I'll wait for FOMC before I really think about shorting anything in particular. All right. But other than that, that's the names. Pretty much short, quick list that I'm watching in terms of that. Walmart's on the list for continuation. CRM's on the list for continuation with that inverted head and shoulders. And then some tech names that I'll watch as they come into resistance. All right. But that's kind of just short and sweet what I'll keep an eye on. But that 410, that February 24th low on SPY is what I'm going to be watching if we get any kind of retracement back to the downside. That 410 half roughly is what I'm going to be looking at on SPY to find and make a lower high, a higher high, higher low is the term I'm watching. A higher low off of SPY so we can get a nice continuation going into Powell. All right. But other than that, I'll leave it as is then. We'll call it a wrap for you guys. And then I will see you guys on live tomorrow. So let's tune into Sig and Dapper.